second I landed, I just didn't turn around. The energy in there, the buzz, like the stories, the deals, it was brilliant. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Please, pick up the phone. I don't care if you're Barack Obama or somebody serving me a coffee, I will talk to you the same. For somebody who can't read or write was mental. Now I ended up writing 6 books, all about him. But it will teach you that nothing could scare me. Really to grow the company, and not from a selfish point, it's for other people.
Okay, so I always like to start with like Dubai. The name of the podcast is Dubai Life. There you go. So I'm interested to know people's journey and how they came about moving to Dubai. How was it for you? How did you first hear about Dubai, or what was it that made you make the move over here?
I think it was an advert when I was working in Hove at the time.
Back in the UK.
So I'd always done, I actually got kicked out, well, they asked me to leave school and put me on work placement because I was just a little bit, not naughty, but hyperactive.
Yeah.
So they were like, we need to get you out of the country.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. So afterwards, they put me in a workplace. So there was an estate agency in Haywards Heath, and I fell in love with it. I was like, this is brilliant.
What did you like about it?
I just liked the energy. I liked the day, like how quick the day went. Like you'd go on a viewing, or I'd shadow someone at the point, or be like a T-boy or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was how quickly the day went. Like 9 o'clock, next thing you know, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock. You're like, cracking. I had a smile on my face like, every day I was there, and I used to love getting into work, doing whatever extra bits I could do to, make myself get like a proper job there. And then after a while, they were like, "Look, we have got a position," and it just sort of went from there. So I was in the UK doing it between sort of Brighton and London for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And I think then something came up, a magazine or something came through, and it was with Allsop, and reached out to him, spoke to him. Then coincidentally came out on holiday with my mates a few days when I met with Lewis when they were in Golden Diamond Park, and loved it. Was working in London, delayed it for about a year because it's like everyone was like, "Oh, you can't go out there; it's commission only. You'll sell you for camels. You can't have ibuprofen, all this stuff." I was like, "No." But then literally, I'd finished a development in London just by Canary Wharf, got some good money from it, and thought, what, sod it, let's go, and moved out on my own. And literally, the second I landed, I just didn't turn around. I considering that I'd get homesick going 30 miles up the road. Everyone was like, "Dean, you got 2 weeks out there. That's all we'll give you." Really? 11 years, I made the 4th I am.
Wow.
So,
why do you think that was?
Do you know, I like the people, like, I just felt the energy here. Like, I always loved the UK.
Yeah.
Always, growing up, best place in the world. Not so much, my opinions on it now are very different, but I would never have left that. But there was just something here. I don't know, it was the sunshine, it was the speed of the country, the people, like, because you've been in Smith & Ken's office, Allsop's office, like, it was class. Do you know what, the energy in there, the buzz, like the stories, the deals, it was brilliant. I know, I loved it. And for years, I was the first person in that office every day. First person, I was always in there for like 8:15. Next person would come in at 8:30.
What year was this?
2014.
Okay.
Yeah, they just moved to Vision Tower. So it'd been like 2014.
Okay.
Always the first person in. One, you miss the traffic. Always got a parking space as well. All these other people coming in not parking, like, always stupid. So, and then it just went from there, and I just fell in love with it. Literally fell in love with everything about Dubai. But I think the sunshine is a big thing. When you go back to England, you wake up and it's dark.
Yeah.
Puts you in a bit of a shit mood. You're like, oh.
Yeah, it actually does.
Whereas here, I didn't have curtains for years. Then obviously I met my wife, and she's like, "We've got to have curtains." Right then, let's have curtains. But yeah, that is how I got her. And as I say, then I met my wife.
How did you meet?
Saw a pic. She was like a mutual friend on Facebook at the time, really before social media was that big. And Karine in the office knew her. Said, "Look," I said, "Who's this?" She said, "Oh, that's Lou, everyone calls her, and she's setting up a hair company." I said, "Can I have her number?" She said, "Oh, let me send a picture of you or something." Rather than sitting there scrolling before anything like that. And then I just said, "Look, I'm old fashioned." I said, "Look, I'll meet you at Pier 7, 7 o'clock this day." Go from there, and that was it.
Nice. Which restaurant in Pier 7?
It was Cargo, I think we was at.
Is that gone now?
That one's still there, I think.
Is it?
They're always mixing and matching in there, but I think cargo, a terrible, dirty beer in there. Oh,
Yeah.
no, I haven't been there for years now.
Yeah.
I think it's just like central then because of she lived down the other end of the Dubai marina, like right down that other part. But yeah, it was just a convenient spot, and that was it. And since then, I think we moved in together after about 5 weeks, and was in Vegas after about 6 weeks. And
oh wow, that fast.
next thing you know,
Just
it's
new
houses, and everything.
businesses.
Yeah.
A lot. Love it. When you
that
know,
was
you
that.
know, right? As they say. So then you've obviously you've been real estate through and through. How has it changed in your opinion over the past? Well, since you've come, what's that? 11 years now.
Yeah, how is it? I think a lot more is
In
done.
so many ways, I guess. But
Yeah, the key thing that is going back to the point I touched on is that the office used to be loud, mad, vibrant, and even nowadays I walk in some big offices and it's silent
yeah.
because so many people working
Yeah.
on their phones, doing business on their phone. For me, that blows my brain. Like I'm so old school. If somebody sends me a lead on Property Finder, people ping my WhatsApp, and I'm like, fuck, pick up the phone and you speak to that. If they're sending you a lead at that point, if it's 11 o'clock at night, they are actively looking at 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
So if you ring them,
Yeah.
like, don't just ping a WhatsApp. Don't, and that for me is something which I really struggle with. Is saying to people, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Please pick up the phone.
It's so important to actually have real conversations.
Especially when you're like an offer. You can't package an offer properly. And how easy is it for somebody to reject it? No.
The problem is when you write out responses and you're trying to negotiate in words, the words can be read in 10 different ways. So
100%.
So to be able to express with use tonality and be persuasive, you just can't.
No.
People come over to me and they're like, take a look at this message, what should I reply? And I'm like, you need to, have you called them? Because it's just so much, just call and ask.
Honestly, it's
rather than
mental.
asking me to speak.
That's the thing that, as for me, has changed. I think that the job has always been the same for me. You meet a client, you meet a person, you go to a
It's the
villa.
same conversation.
Yeah, it is, and you're just there to put the pieces together. You're the middleman, but that is the biggest thing that I find. Is going from an office which is massive and loud. I went to a developer's office the other day to get it was a full floor in the marina, full house in there. You could hear a pin drop.
Really?
And I was like, what? And I think some people are still, they like to hide behind their phone, but for me, I'm not that person.
No.
I'm far too in your face. I want to talk to you. I don't care if you're, Barack Obama or somebody served me a coffee. I will talk to you the same. I'm not going to sit there like hiding behind his phone. I want to see your reaction. I want to gauge with you.
100%.
But it's mental. That's the only thing that,
That's the main thing. What have you seen that, what have you taken from all your years of experience that you've kind of passing on now through Royce, like what's really worked well for you?
Do you know what, it's coming down to just being honest with people.
Yeah.
Being open and honest. I think when you come out here, you do anything to get a deal over the line. And you will, I'll never forget, we had one guy in the Lakes, and at the time it was a big deal. It was a 5 million dirham main villa. In 2014, it was large chunk of change, and we'd done the deal and we charged him conveyancing. He said, if you charge me that $5,000, I'll never use you again. And we're like, fuck it, we're getting $100,000. Done. A year later, 2 years later, I saw the property on the market and I rang him and he said to me, Dean, what did I tell you? So if you ever charge me that $5,000, and then it just came down to, I could have easily taken $5,000 off my fee. I've been like, do you know what? Build the relationship. And for me now, it's all about that long game. The motto is in my office, I play the long game. If I've had people who haven't bought from me for one reason or another, and other brokers will probably ring up and be like, oh, you bought a shit unit, oh, you paid too much for that. I feel like, fair enough. It didn't work out this time. If you need me, I'm here. And people would ring me up, be like, Dean, can you check this MOU for me? Check it out. For some reason, the deal didn't go ahead. They're straight back, ringing me up. I found that just being a better human towards people, not trying to sell them everything that you could, to literally be somebody who can guide them, help them, and do it that way. But when I was first started out,
you just you're in that environment as well, where it's just next deal.
It is. And who can get there? And if you're not doing it, you would do anything to push a deal through. And it's a very short term guy. And even in Dubai, I feel like so many brokers out here get the deal done and they just wipe their hands with you. You know, they could have a problem with the AC, and rather than just be like, look, let me see what I can do to help you, they'll ignore the calls, or that they just won't.
Income producing.
Exactly. And that is why I say to all my staff, if you don't do a deal with that person, it's not the end of the world. Because if you've given them a service that they will be like, do you know what, I remember that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll reach out to him, and I have a lot of people now.
And it happens so much, like you said about the guy a year later that came back and said, remember what I said about the conveyancing. Dubai is like that. I mean, no one's, every 5 years, as a minimum, people are moving. And then they've got friends that are coming into the city. Yeah. Who are they going to go to? Who are they going to remember?
Because you don't really want to deal with it. As soon as you start flicking through property finder and start ringing brokers, your phone number is then going everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I say to people now. Like for me, I was a buyer's broker for a very long time, just working. I still do now on referrals. Like, you tell me what you want, where you want to live, how much you want to spend, when you want to move. And then I'll take care of it. Yeah. And I will then, and that's why I keep I'm very open with other brokers. Like I get on well with majority of companies in Dubai, because I think that there's enough for everyone to go around. You don't need to be this whole, I'm not working with you, I'm not doing this. It's like, well, let's just get a deal done.
Yeah, I mean, you see it quite a lot still, because I've got the guys that are reasonably quite new, and they're getting, leads, and I'm like, okay, well, we don't have anything in that area. You need to go out and speak to them, and it's like, do you work with agents? No. Do you work with agents? No. I said, first of all, you've got to change your approach a little bit. If you ask them, do you work with agents? It's so easy for them to say no. You've got to try and sell the client a little bit.
You have.
Be a little bit unique.
You can't, because so many people just shoot you down.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a good thing. Like, with my team, I will tell them who to ring. Like, I'll say, look, this person in this area, give them a call. And we've got it quite good at. But I think people who don't work with other brokers, it does. Even I've got units which are 100% exclusive, and I will sell that unit. But if somebody brings me over and says, look, Dean, can I view it?
Well, it's about representing the client in the right way.
Exactly.
I think that's what exclusivity should be more of. Yeah. That's the reason for exclusivity, so that you can then get more exposure and hopefully get you a better price.
Get the deal done.
Whereas some agents think exclusivity is, I'm guaranteed 4%. And that's the mindset, that's the difference.
But that's the other thing that, and this is why I say to it, is that there's a catch-22, if it is exclusive with somebody, you find out that broker could be a bit lazy, and they'll just wait for it. If you've got somebody going against him, if you're in the Gladiators and you're doing that Travelator or something, you're doing it by yourself, you'll sit at the bottom of that thing all day waiting until you're ready to run up. But if you've got somebody next to you, being like, right, first person to the top of that, they're getting the money. It's the same with real estate, and some people, exclusivity is great in many aspects, but I do think that having more than one person on it, I think it's good that it's limited to 3 now. It does give that little bit more, you actually have got competition. We can't just sit here and wait for it to land in your lap, because I feel the brokers nowadays do just sit there, like, when's the deal? Where's the deal? Are you working? Are you doing?
I think the very first thing that you've got to do is put the property out there in the right way to agents that have got clients.
Exactly.
That's going to be the job for an exclusive agent, and then report back and keep the seller informed.
100%.
It's so simple when you think about it. You just got to speak to them, let them know what you're doing, because they're not going to know if you don't update them for 2 weeks and then come with an offer. They're going to be like, this is the first offer we've had. You've not done anything. If you tell them, look, we've spoken to these agents at these companies, they're
offered it out
as well.
But the hardest part is getting the listing. This is what blows my brain with something. Is getting the listing is the hardest part. Once you've got it, you should be doing everything in your power to throw it out to the world and be like, look, we've got this unit, like genuine, ready to go. No BS, it's here. I
always see it like on the American shows, when they get the listing, it's like almost they've done a deal and they celebrate it so much. And I remember watching it thinking, it doesn't mean anything. Like they used to say, I'm the best, I've got the most listings in this area. And I'm like, if you said that over here, you'd be like, I've got so many listings. But I think over there, it's kind of like, it's almost, I would imagine there's a much higher chance of them doing the deal.
I think so, Again, it's all
the mindset of the seller as well.
They collaborate a lot, don't they, with these open houses?
Yeah, exactly.
Out there, they bring these brokers in.
It's almost like they're almost like a developer agent, where they're getting the unit or the building, and then they're putting it out to the brokers.
No, it's a very. I do feel like we're going a bit more that I've seen recently, especially with the higher end stuff. There's been some brokers, Sotheby's and things who do these open houses for broker events. I think Allsop done one the other week actually up in Albarari, some massive villa they took on, and they're like a brokers event, to bring the brokers up there. Yeah. It's it's good. Gets it out there. Everyone's on their social media.
Exactly.
pinging it out there. So
if you truly want the best price, then you need to get
100%. You've got to expose it. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be counting on one or two people.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. You can't just sit there.
No.
You know, before you put a property online, your phone would ring.
Yeah.
You want to view it? Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Done. But
how do you feel about the market moving forward? Obviously, there's a lot of different dynamics.
I still think it's very strong, and I, for one, you know, I'm invested in it here. So I can speak from, you know, that if I wasn't confident about it, if I didn't think that it was going to, you know, be a great hub for the world for the foreseeable, then I wouldn't. But I think it really is an amazing place to live, and I think the structure that's in place now, like everything that's coming here, that the market can only continue. I know I don't think it's going to go like it has done the last few years, where it's just gone like to the moon. It will get to a level where, you know, things are like, there's a lot handing over, you know, supply and demand. It's going to come back to that, but yeah, I'm very excited to see, you know, where it goes. I think commercials are going to be a big thing.
Yeah,
they're not building enough. You know, even, you know, you looking for an office, me looking for an office now, it's nearly impossible.
I agree.
There's nothing around. If somebody said, you know, let's build like a Marina Plaza coming off of Dubai Hills Mall or something like that, coming off of, you know, that way, you would be
full,
laughing. But so I think if I was to invest in something in the next 6 months, it'd be commercial. Definitely.
Yeah. I saw that Ellington are releasing full floors soon.
Are they?
Yeah.
Nice.
I met them a few weeks ago. They're going to do commercial.
Really?
Yeah, they're going to start.
Honestly, I think Imitaz, is it? I think it's doing something up towards that theme park near Dubai, near the Villa project.
Yeah.
Like up there. And again, you think that's miles away, but you're probably getting decent price per square foot, you know, for coming down somewhere like right in the middle.
Yeah.
That will, you know, sell. I think that is going to be the next big thing.
Opportunity.
Yeah, commercial.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So let's talk about Monty. I've obviously, I know I'm a father of two, and I noticed a shift for me when it comes to just hearing stories like this and just seeing things and reading things. I'm just so much more aware of how it must have been, and like I can put myself not in your shoes, but I can. I mean, we had our second in August. I remember it was a long labour, so it was like 2 days no sleep.
Yeah.
You know, we were just living in the room. Nothing was happening. Then it was happening. Then it wasn't, and it's just like such a stressful time. And then we've got the 2-year-old at home. We don't have a nanny, so trying to time that. At one point, she was in the labour room with us.
Oh, really?
And she was climbing up the walls, out and trying to look out the window. And my wife's on the ball, just trying to breathe. And I'm like, this is not helping. And I don't think we need this stress. And my brother was moving to Dubai. He was on a flight. And we were thinking, if we go into like full labour now, and my brother's not here to look after my daughter, then she's going to be in here with us. So it was just such a stressful time. And eventually we had the baby boy. It was amazing. And it was like, we were in the same room as we had our first.
Okay.
And, you know, you just, like, you know what it's like, just like emotion. You've had no sleep. Everything.
You
like,
can't
you see
explain
it, and you can't explain it. And then, so everything was great, and the doctor came in, and you know, you have on that little bed, and he said, his words were, and I remember it, and he said, "I'm not happy," and I was like, my feeling just changed so quick, and it was just like, I was like so angry. I was like, "What do you mean you're not happy? Like, I've just had this like amazing experience. I've not slept for 2 days." He's like, "It looks great." They weighed him. He was quite big. And I think they were worried about diabetes or something, but he was making a little noise, which my daughter made as well. I think they're just like, they call it grunting. And they're like, no, we need to do blood tests. And I was like, no way, like, there's no chance of like taking him for blood tests. And so I had to like argue with the midwife. I was like, look, he's fine, let him just have, like, he's feeding really well, just give some. And then came back an hour later, and he was almost like just this voice of doom, and he was so serious. There was no, like, if he'd have just said, look, everything's great, it's fine, because his vitals were good, just making a noise, so let's keep an eye on it. But the way he spoke to me was really bad, and I just, and it turned out to be nothing, but they tested him all night in NICU, and just going into NICU, I couldn't even speak to my wife. Right. Honestly, I couldn't even, and I said to her, I was like, I just can't, I can't cope with it. it's just, and there was nothing wrong, but they were doing the blood test in the heel, and he was crying, and it was just so much. So I can't even, you know, and then luckily he was okay, but just that's nothing. You know what I mean? But just to go through that, and then to see like your story, just makes me realise as a father like how strong you all must have been, like the family, your wife, and
one thing that we took from it is how strong as humans we are. Like I say, put me in a room now with anybody, I would be the strongest person you'll meet. Maybe not physically by any means, but mentally, I would. It's when you even just mention NIC just giving me that fear.
Yeah.
Fuck it. It was the noises, the machines, the other people, the families that you'd see day in, day out. It's and actually when we had Delilah, we had to go to the different Medi clinic, but she had that noise grunting, and the doctor said we got to take her in, and I went, absolutely not. I said I can't walk in there. Kirsty had obviously had C-section, so she was like bedbound, and I was like I can't do it, and like we've got to take her in. We have to, and I walked into that thing with her, and literally I just looked at parents who were sat there, and it was like, shit, and I left her in there, and I went back to the room with Kirsty, and we didn't sleep. And he brought her back in the morning. It's like everything's, and I was like, there's nothing that would. I knew she was going to be fine. I said, no matter what happens in this world, that would never happen to us again. Like ever. Like what we went through, nobody could ever. Whatever you believe in, whatever things are out there, that could never happen again. So I was never worried, but it was just walking back into that room and hearing the noises, seeing the people, and I was like, oh my God, like it was.
Oh yeah, I can't.
Awful.
Yeah. It's like.
Really bad.
Just seeing the kids in there, and I just had to turn away. And I was crying. I didn't want to show that I was crying. It was like,
it was.
And I was just hanging on every single word the doctor said. I was waiting. I was like, because they were doing the blood oxygen test, and we were literally just like, just couldn't take it. So
it was meant to. It literally was something which I say to people now, like, if somebody dies now, in my life, whether it be your nan, your auntie, your parents, or whatever, you're taught that at school. At school, you learn that.
Coming, you're ready for
you learn it
to a degree.
When you go through something like this, it will just change your world, forever. And we came out of it better people. I mean, what happened to us and losing a child, like even saying it's a mental thing to say, but we came out of that as like a stronger couple, like as our vision on life completely changed. Like we were put into something which other people wouldn't have come out normal. And I've met people who have turned into some very, very different people. People who have gone down some very dark holes, and it's very easy to do. I think it could have been very easy, but for me, my thing, which I always said to everyone, was that I've got to be there for Kirsty and Tallulah, because if they haven't got me, then they haven't got anyone. So I said, no matter what happens, I'll have my moments. I'll go do what I need to do, but I will put on the face every day to them too that I would be there, strong enough to conquer anything. And it was just, we were very fortunate actually that when this was all happening, we were working closely with the salons at the time. So you imagine if you had a full-time job, you're working for a company, and these little things that happen, we could be there every day for 10 weeks. We were there. During COVID, you'd only have 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. Every single day, we're the first people outside that door, banging on the door to get in. Do that, 2 hours there, leave our daughter at home, come back for 3 hours, have lunch with Tallulah, do some work, and then we'd be straight back up there. 10 weeks it was.
10 weeks.
Every single day. And we were singing there thinking, if I had a corporate job or I had to do this, I saw these other people who were coming every other day or something like that, and it was just, we were very fortunate to be in a position that
you got to
we'd be there and then have like every day with him, every moment that we could. Mental.
And so it was MTM, right? TM was the...
It was myotubular myopathy. Myotubular myopathy, which again, it was just a generic disease. We knew nothing about it prior to the pregnancy.
No.
And even if they're,
No signs or anything.
nothing.
Yeah.
Like my wife was huge. Like
Yeah.
if you saw photos of her, it was like there was 4 kids in there. But that was towards like the end.
Right.
And obviously we then found out that came because he couldn't swallow.
Right.
Because he couldn't swallow, there was a build-up of fluids going around him.
Got it.
When he did come out, and I see this image as clear as day. We had like an emergency C-section. They pulled him out, and it was just like a limp, and I was just like, what? And they just took him onto this machine, and we never saw his face. Apart from when he was born, we never saw his face till he died. Because he always had a mask on.
Yeah.
It was only after he died that we actually sat there and saw his face properly. And that was a killer. That was that was messed up. And he was such a beautiful little, such a beautiful little boy.
Yeah,
that was unreal. How much he impacted us and how much he changed changed us and changed our lives really.
Yeah, for the better.
100%. 100%.
What are they with this disorder? Are they researching into it?
So they've done a lot of tests, and there was some recently. We've done a lot of charity work actually back in the UK afterwards, and I've obviously since written books about him, which we have actually quite a few more coming out, but it's just getting around to doing it all. But they'd run tests, and then something would happen, and it wouldn't work. But there's nothing which is there's nothing curable, and I'll never forget the day that we got the diagnosis. That was the day which that's when you knew. Like,
and how long was that into the 10 weeks?
6 weeks. So for 6 weeks, I was saying to my wife, "There's nothing wrong with him. Nothing wrong." My wife's sitting there every night googling. He's got this. He's got that. He's got this, and then the doctors weren't giving anything. I said, until somebody tells me that they'd done all this testing. They had to send everything off to Germany, do all these tests on him, and I never forget. We left the hospital 2 or 3 days before. My wife looked at me, and this fucks me. This does. She goes, she looked at me. Just got out of the hospital, and I was driving. She looked at me and she went, "He's going to be all right, isn't he?" I said, "He's going to be sweet, isn't it?" I said, "He's going to be fine." And 2 days later, we sat in the hospital with him, said our goodbyes, and we do every day. Got in the car in the hospital. The phone rang in the hospital. I was like, "That's weird." They're like, "Can you come back up?" And I looked at Kirsten and I was like, "Okay, let's go." And they took us into a room, and there was 3 doctors already there, I think like 4 nurses. And they said, "We've got the results back." And I was like, "Okay." And then they said what it was. And then Kirst kept saying to the doctors, "But is he brain damaged?" Like, "No, he's not brain damaged." And she's getting excited, like, "This is amazing." But I'm reading at the same time the paper. She's talking to him. And they said, life expectancy is like no more than a couple of years with this disease. And it was at that point where it was like somebody just stabbed me, and I was like, there's nothing. We literally was in the hospital the day after, and was like, right, what can we buy? We'll put him on a machine, so to track it. So I think so that it breathes, because obviously he couldn't breathe. His muscles didn't work, so he couldn't breathe by himself. So as soon as you take him off a life support machine, the body doesn't work. So we said, right, we'll buy this machine. I think it's 150,000 dirhams. Buy the machine, we'll bring it home. And then we'd be thinking, hang on, if we're going to bring him home and he's going to be there, then my daughter's going to get attached to my son, and then my daughter's going to see this life for him. And it was just a very, very, but we would have done anything in this world we could have given him. But even the British Embassy, we had a plane that was going to come in, take him, and actually they'd arranged that to bring a plane in to get him, but it would have been too risky with all the machines and everything to do it. And then the annoying thing was that the UK was so messed up with the whole thing that we couldn't have, if we landed there with him, we wouldn't have been able to go, because this whole you got to be, it was COVID, so you had to be, you would have to be separated, and there were so many messed up things. And that was the thing which hurt as well, is that nobody got to meet him. Do you know what? My mum and dad weren't able to fly out to just see him, touch him, and that's the UK government, and you know all that stuff came out afterwards about them having their own little shindigs in the government. It just made me hate them even more. That they go back to their normal lives, and we had something which could never be like.
You can't get that back.
You can never get that back, and it could have. If these bastards were able to do that, why couldn't they? My parents had just flown out
Just for one.
just to see him.
More visit.
Hurt me, that did.
Yeah.
Made me very angry.
Yeah.
Very angry, that did.
Yeah. Turning.
Cheers, thank you.
So, I want to try and learn from what you've done, which I think is incredible. And you've turned like this into purpose. And what were the steps that you took to, you know, be better for this and create a legacy for Monty? How did you come to the plan of what you wanted to do?
Do you know what? It was weird because one of my friends said to me that he knew a girl who was in NICU, and he said he used to read books to a child every night. And no word of a lie coming from me, I reading and writing isn't good for me. I left school with no GCSEs, like literally my first letter was a U. And then I started reading in books every day. My mate from Luxembourg sent me a load of books, and they were great, and I'd sit there reading these books, and they like rhymed and everything. Then I wrote a poem about him while he was still with us. And again, these words came out of my mouth, for somebody who can't read or write, it was mental. Like, it was insane what was coming out of me. Then it was after he passed away, something just happened. I was sat at home. We had where was we? We was living in Jumeirah Islands at the time, and I had this office, and the house was so big, and we got that house because he was coming home with us. So we thought we'd had all this space, moved down an apartment, we got the kids, everything in big space for him, and I just was rattling around there. I just sat in this office, and I just wrote these books. And it was insane. Like, the spelling was awful. The puncture, it was, but the body of it was there. Like, and I just wrote these books, and everything was just coming to me. And then I ended up writing 5 books, I think, 6 books, all about him. Stuff that would have happened if he was here in real life. And you asked me to do that now, wouldn't happen. I wouldn't be able to think of anything.
Okay.
But that time, that helped me so much. Like, I can't even. I don't know why it happened, but something just came into my brain and said, write a book, Dean. Write a book. And people would piss themselves if you said Dean was going to write a book. Like, Dean can't read or write. How is he going to write a book? And I did. And the first one came out, and it was amazing. We had such good feedback. It was all over the world. It was like people in Australia. It was like sold out on Amazon. It was all these places. It was never for anything financial. It was just my way of coping with loss. And like you said, there's no way to deal with it. Other people could have, gone a very different way, but I just channeled it all into these books. And I used to see kids reading them. I'd get messages from people on Instagram saying, this is literally the book that he's choosing every night. It was a Christmas book in the middle of summer. I want to read that one again. And I was like, shit. I was like, that made me feel so good. And everyone would always talk about him. But that boy, he had so much love. Yeah. Like, the amount of love going towards him every single day, from the moment he was born to the moment he passed away, was insane. And I just love seeing that. Yeah. World Book Day, people would dress up in like blue clothes, and because blue was always the colour that we had from them. They'd go to World Book Day dressed as that, with that book and things like that. And I was like, I love that.
That's a legacy, yeah.
It's
so nice.
It just kept going. It still does now.
Yeah.
There's not a day when I don't ever, talk about him, or even now people say to me, how many kids you got? I say 4. Yeah. And sometimes when they ask, it makes me bring it up, and I enjoy saying it. Yeah. I just have my 4th child.
You want to keep the legacy going.
Always
talking about his memory.
Always. Some people are like, no, you shouldn't. Bollocks. He is my son. He was my son.
It's there, right? You're not going to forget all that.
You're not going to do that.
You might as well.
And other people have this different mentality, and I'm just like, no. I like it when people say, how many kids have you got? So I can bring that up and I can talk about him. Yeah. People don't know how to deal with it.
Have you spoke to other families who've been through similar situations?
Massive, especially with the disease. Yeah. Like, I've done a lot of when this all happened. I've done a huge amount of podcasts with, and panels and things with people who had been through different things, whether it be a miscarriage or, children dying at a slightly older age and things like. Madly enough, I was in Thailand last week, and we met this couple who had grandparents. There was the dad there, 2 kids, and randomly she just started talking to Kirsty, and I was over listening to the conversation, and she said that her daughter died, and we was like, oh, and then she went into a bit more detail. 14 years old, found a cancer on her arm, and I was listening into the conversation, and she's made one comment, and she said, "I'll never forget, just for my daughter told." She said, "Mum, can you just make sure that you're buried next to me?" And I was like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, I just sat there trying not to listen to the conversation, and the grandma, the mum of she broke down and she was saying it, and Kirsty looked at me, and I was just like, "Fuck, it's such a mental thing to say for anybody to have to say that." You don't, and until you've had kids, even without having kids, like it's so mental. But I've spoken to other people about it, and I think I've helped a lot of people. As I say, I met some people who were very, very like in a bad place, and you could feel it from them. But again, I think it comes down to your relationship with the person you're with and how you're dealing with it.
Like you had the family there.
But yeah, exactly. But we had so much support, not physically here, but across the world on social media and FaceTimes and all this. We had so much support. Some people didn't know what to say, and you didn't. That's a tricky thing. Like if it was somebody else that I knew, what do you say to someone in that situation? How do you approach it? And I always said I would never hold it against somebody if they never reached out to me and said something, because it's such a mental thing to have to say something like.
Yeah, you kind of think, I don't want to bring it up if they're in a place where they're feeling a bit better, not better, but they're just like managed to escape for a few seconds, and then you bring it up. I've had a friend whose father passed away in really bad circumstances recently, and it's like, the amount of times I typed the message, deleted it, typed it, and thought to myself, am I going to stir up memories where he's trying to forget? But I think the person in the moment, like, they're not thinking the way you are.
No.
Like, they're not, like we said, they're not going to forget that. They're thinking about it all the time anyway, and just a bit of...
They are. I could never hold it against somebody if they didn't.
Yeah.
Or didn't.
Or if they did and it wasn't like...
Exactly. You're not saying it to cause offence or to be an offensive person. So, yeah, it's a very weird situation to go through.
Yeah, I can imagine. What would you say, like, coming out of this, what has it taught you that nothing else could? I think we probably already touched on a few things.
It will teach you that nothing can scare me.
Yeah.
Like, and as I say, like, doing the job I do now, working for me,
it's nothing.
You're working for somebody who you won't be able to walk into a room and scare me. Okay, with what I've been through in life,
nothing matters.
Nothing
when it comes down to
it. Doesn't. And people, I say to people now, if somebody came up to me now and put a knife against my throat and said, I'll be like, doesn't scare me, mate. That can't scare me. Like, go through what I've been through. That will scare the shit out of you for the rest of your life. I'm in a position now where nothing, I would say nothing doesn't worry me, because that's not the case. There's obviously still things that you need to do in day-to-day life, but your outlook on life is very different. And you're gonna, people can speak to me about anything, and I will help anyone with any scenarios. And I always feel now I look at people differently. Before, if you saw somebody going mad or about something, you never know what they're going through.
Yeah, what they've been through.
And that was something which I learned the other day, that sometimes you do need to say something, but other times they could have just had a phone call about anything. Imagine if you caught me on an off day after what happened through me, and then I'd lost the plot one day and just went mental.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would have known, his son's passed away.
Exactly.
You'd be like, okay, fuck, like, shit, I didn't. So I always have now that level of, sort of like, if something bad happens to someone or they're going through something,
just respect,
listen to them. And that's the thing, is to, and I say to people a lot now, is to talk.
Yeah.
It's like your body, if you kept eating and eating and eating and didn't let anything out your body, what's going to happen? You're going to explode. You're just going to, like, a balloon, you keep blowing it up, it's going to explode. It's the same with this, like, with what I went through. You talk. If you talk to somebody, if you've got a problem, most things in life can be resolved if you talk about it.
Yeah.
It's when people don't talk about it and they bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it up, and then they go.
Yeah.
It makes you think about, other things in life where people used to say about, I think, people say that they've got mental health problems and things from certain things. I think a lot of people do. But as I say, I could be a prime example of someone who goes down a route of being, I've got mental health problems. And
course, yeah.
I don't, because I feel like I'm strong enough to come out the other side. And I think people nowadays go through things which could be resolved, didn't necessarily have to go down that route, but then use it as an excuse to say, I've got this. That could be anything from, drugs, drinking, cheating on your wife and things like that.
It's usually something major, isn't it, that's triggering it, and that's not going to disappear. So the fact that you're not talking about it is not making it stop. It's still there in your head, so you might as well talk.
100%. And I never forget, actually, afterwards, I think Kirsty said to me, do you want to talk to someone? I said, what they call it, psychiatrist? Therapist, maybe. I said, I don't, because I haven't been through it. Yeah. They're probably the most cleverest person, most intellectual human in the world.
You can't
fast, but they can't sit there. And I thought I'd better off talking to somebody who's been through what I've been through.
Yeah.
That way I can have a chat.
Going to get each other
because we're going to know it. But I couldn't sit with somebody who's not been through it and try to say, oh, can you do this or can you do that? Because that wouldn't have worked for me at all.
No. Yeah, I think it's important to actually think like that and focus on what you need in the moment, and that's something that you've done really well. Yeah, no,
it's been a journey, and I've been very fortunate now to be blessed with 2 more kids.
Yes, I've seen.
Obviously, since him, I'll probably have another 1 or 2, I reckon.
Yeah.
The wife's like, really? But, no, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm just obsessed with them.
Yeah, it's the best.
Like, they are unbelievable.
Yeah.
They drive you crazy, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I love nothing more than walking through the mall and just having like a crew of kids like behind me.
That's amazing.
Like comes the Pied Piper with all these kids coming through.
Amazing. What's next for you then? Obviously now you've got Royce and seems to be doing really good, like doing an amazing job. What's the future hold for you in Dubai?
I think really to grow the company and not from a selfish point, but for me, it's for other people. I want to bring people on who I can help, I can impact. Setting up the company was never something that I was doing to make just for me. Like if I wanted to do that, I'd do it by myself. I'd be my own broker, I'd be a lone ranger, and I'd do it. I genuinely set up that company to help people, to train people, to develop people. I think there's some amazing companies in Dubai which you can go to and you can learn, but I think with me you're going to have a very personal touch. I'm not going to bring anybody on for the sake of bringing you on. I'll bring you on because I like you, I think I can help you, and I think you've got the right drive. So my aim is to create a team of 50 brokers very soon who want to grow with me, who want to develop. I think to get a few more investments here in Dubai. I think that the wife wants to open another salon as well, which will be exciting towards sort of like the Motor City way. I feel like the world is moving more out that way. It's definitely a good opportunity to do it. More children potentially, maybe next year. I don't know.
We'll see.
Maybe have a year off because I feel like it's been like 5 years of just like pregnancy baby. Maybe just we'll get a TV in the bedroom or something. But yeah, the future is going to be amazing. I think that there's going to be some good things happening for the company, for the family. Just get some nice holidays in.
Yeah.
Just enjoy. That's what we do with our lives. We just enjoy it.
Every moment.
Every morning I wake up with a smile on my face, seeing them kids, going to a job which I love, walking into an office where I love. I love the people in there. I love the vibes we have. My wife's the same with her salons. And just to keep that going for as long as we can.
It's the culture. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing and opening up your story. I'm sure it's going to help people out there. Hopefully it goes through to some people that really need it. And really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Lee.
Pleasure.